Hello, everybody. What is going on tonight? It is July 21st, 2025. And this is Unfound Live. I hope everybody had a great week since we all got together the last time. These weeks go by so fast, I don't know where they go. I keep saying that. I think I say that just about every live show, but I mean it. And I have a great show lined up for you tonight. As you can see in the title, we're going to talk a cryptocurrency case, which I think is the first time we've ever done that on the live show or even on the podcast. I don't think that cryptocurrency has come up ever anywhere. We're also going to, as I stated last week, I'm going to maybe try to make this a weekly thing now where I look at a disappearance, an older disappearance that kind of caught my eye during my reading over the past week. And I haven't reached out to the family yet or anything. Just something in passing. It's nothing that I'm doing on purpose. But as you would suspect, I do a lot of disappearance reading. Who knows what I'm going to run across. And I'm going to talk about 2003 in the state of Washington. And then we also have a Steve Pankey letter. Steve makes an appearance. He is not, we have not talked about him recently. I've not read any letters from him. And this letter, I have to admit, is a couple weeks old. Really, I was going to read it last week, and I think I just ran out of time or forgot or whatever. But most of it I can read to you this evening, so you'll see how Steve is doing out there in Colorado in jail. As you are watching tonight or listening tonight, whatever you are doing, please give this show a thumbs up. You know what to do, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. You can give it a thumbs up. If you are a new subscriber or a new person to the podcast, you're just finding it for the first time, I hope you will subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to support what we do here at Unfound, variety of ways. You can hit the super chat button while you are watching. You can go to patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. You can go to paypal.me/Unfound Podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube this evening, you can hit the join button below. So let's see who is in here. And I will continue on. Pookley always likes to say hi to me the day after the live show comes out. Hello, Pookley. Charlie, what's going on? Dizzy Gillespie, you're a heck of a trumpet player there, Dizzy. Amy D, what's going on with you? Good to see you, Lisa. What's up? And Lisa says I took a nap, still here on time. Good to see it. Lisa, Rennie from Dallas. I went through Dallas. Man, it seems like yesterday, but that was the summer of 2019. Rennie is the last time I was through the Dallas area. Hello, Mary Jane. Mary Jane, a part of the think tank. Good to see you. And D is saying to Rennie, you're not too far from me. D is not too far from Dallas, but D, you are, I think, in a different state. So what has gone on with me since the last time we got together? Well, as far as trivia goes, last Wednesday, team did okay. We were actually second going to the final question, but we didn't know the final question, but at least we didn't put any points on it. And so we walked away with some points, but I think we ended up coming in 4th or 5th place, something like that. what was this, the third week? So we won the first week. I don't know I forget where we came in 2 weeks ago. And then last week we came in 4th or 5th. And overall, we are in 3rd place right now in this particular season. We'll go to the end of September. So a lot of time, it's early, teams jockeying for position, and it's very, very easy for teams to be competitive for only a few weeks. We'll see if they can stretch it out over 3 months, as we've been shown that we're able to do. Of course, the first season at the beginning of this year, we came in 1st. And then this past season that just ended at the end of June, we came in 2nd. And that was a season in which we made so many mistakes and still came in 2nd. So I'm hopeful that the cream will rise to the top by the end of September and we can be in the winner's circle again. And so that's going well. That's on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. It's one of the few things that is not podcast related that is on my schedule every week. Of course, getting the podcast out every Friday at 2:00 is always on my schedule. If I can, unless something comes up. And then this live show always on Monday nights. Of course, the think tank that I run on Sunday evenings. If you'd like to be a part of that, patreon.com/Unfound podcast. But other than podcast stuff, there isn't too much that is always on my schedule. Is something that's like, okay, it's this day at this time, I got to be there. Trivia is one of those things. My singing practice, I get that done every day, but it's when I can fit it in. Disc golf stuff, I get that in when I can. No set time. But on that topic, been going out and throwing. My form is getting better. I actually have a guy online now who I've been videoing my practice, and he's been looking over my form and everything. And that has been going really, really well. So I'm excited about that. And really, the next big thing in my disc golf life is the tournament over in Orlando over Labor Day weekend. It's a tournament that I've gone to. That tournament's been going on will be the 12th or 13th year, something like that. And I think that I've gone to like 9 of them. I've really only played well in 1 of them. But we are going to try to change that this year. As I stated, I think I told you last week, I'd spent a day or 2 over there before the last live show. I had my story about kind of being followed around on that one course. But I went over there, did a little practice, scoping things out. And that's all preparation for the end of August for the Labor Day weekend. In fact, I already have my Airbnb reserved, and I'll be going over there like on Wednesday, so I'm going to miss trivia. But I'm going over there on Wednesday and over to Orlando, and I will be there the whole way until Monday. And I'm going to be very, very close to where the new Universal Park is. You've seen all the commercials probably and everything about the new Universal Park. I'll be easily within walking distance of that. So I don't know if I'll have a chance to go check it out. Maybe I will. It just depends. I'm getting there on Wednesday, and the tournament doesn't start till Saturday. But I go over there because I do go to the course and get a little throwing in and everything. Maybe I'll make some time to go to Universal. And in some past years, I've actually gone over to Disney, and I haven't been to Disney in a while. So maybe I could do that. We'll just have to see. But I'll be over there for a little while, the end of this month, and really, really looking forward to that. So trivia is going okay. Disc golf practice, even after all these years, a dog can learn new tricks, and I'm excited about that. And then the other big thing that happened since we all got together was on Saturday night. My buddy Dana and I went to see went to see Christopher Cross, Men at Work, and Toto. And you're probably thinking, well, what is this, Ed? We know who you are, Ed. We know that you are into heavy metal. We've seen the shirts and everything else. We know the posters and pictures that you have up in your place. If you don't, maybe some of you are new, don't know that I have decorated my condo here in Clearwater Beach with rock and roll posters. So right over here to my right, I have Kiss Destroyer poster. I have Def Leppard Pyromania. In the kitchen, I have Iron Maiden's, one of Iron Maiden's posters. I have a Megadeth poster up, Judas Priest, the Rolling Stones. I have a poster of Ozzy, that very famous picture of Ozzy with Randy Rhoads on his shoulders. Right above my TV here, I have what was a drawing of all these very well-known rock and roll heavy metal musicians, like I don't even know. There's over 50 of them in this. Of course, Ted Nugent and David Coverdale, Jeff Tate from Queensryche, the guys from AC/DC, all in this spectacular, guys from Kiss, all in this picture. A couple women too. Joan Jett is in there. Lita Ford is in that picture. So that's a pretty cool picture that I have above the TV. And then I also have an AC/DC Back in Black poster. So I have all these heavy metal, heavy rock and roll decorations in my place, but I'm going to see these bands. Well, I like them too. I got nothing against Christopher Cross. Ride Like the Wind is a fantastic tune. And he did that. Of course, they did all their hits. And he did Arthur's Theme. And he did some others. He opened. And then Men at Work came on. And you know what they did. They do Who Can It Be Now? Land Down Under. Overkill. It's not Johnny Be Good, but it's Be Good, Johnny Be Good. That song that was off one of their later albums that did pretty well. So that they were really good. Of course, most of Men at Work have moved on. It's really just Colin Hay and maybe one other guy from the original group. And it was great. And then Toto came on. And once again, it's like three guys that have been in the band for quite a long time. And then they've had at least two of the original members die. And then the original singer, the guy who sang Hold the Line, or not Hold the Line, or maybe it wasn't Hold the Line. What song did he sing? But I think it's Hold the Line. Yes. But he has dementia now, so that's very sad. But it was Steve Lukather on guitar, and so he's kind of heading up everything. He's been there since the beginning, and I'm a fan of his. He's a really good guy, it seems. I've seen a lot of interviews with him. And so they did all their hits too, including Hold the Line and Rosanna and I'll Be Over You. And then they ultimately finished with Africa. And what happened with that was they finished the night with that. And the other groups came out. Christopher Cross came out. Colin Hay from Men at Work came out. Their backup singers, everybody came out. So they were all out there on stage. And they all did the song Africa by Toto together. You know, I Bless the Rains down in Africa. It was fantastic. And it was really impressive. The concert started and it was over at the Hard Rock. So it's at the amphitheater over by the Hard Rock Hotel. And so it's outside and it was really hot out. And my buddy Dana and I had lawn seats, but we ended up renting chairs. And Christopher Cross came out at 6:45. And the concert didn't finish until almost 11 o'clock. So, and of course, there were breaks in between, just move instruments around and change the stage a little bit. But so over 3 hours, of course, that wasn't over 3 hours of music, but still, of that 3 hours, I would say we got probably 2 hours and 15 minutes of music. And they did, each group did some songs that I did not know. But it was a good night. It was absolutely packed. This place probably holds 20,000. Of course, when you get in the lawn seats, it's really hard to tell. People just find space. But I'd say 20,000 people were there. It was a good time. And then once the sun came down, it got really comfortable out. And it was just a good time. There wasn't any craziness. There weren't any drunk people, doing anything stupid. But a lot of people like me, Gen Xers, who brought their kids and everything. So it was a good time. And I have to admit, there might have been a time in my life, maybe some years ago, where if you would have told me you went to see who, I would have said, yeah. But now it seems very natural. It seems very natural. Not that I'm a big yacht rock guy. I mean, I don't mind the Doobie Brothers. I know it's yacht rock is a fairly new term, but the Doobie Brothers and groups like that, they're fine. I think Michael McDonald is fantastic. Now, I will admit, I'm not a Jimmy Buffett fan at all. I would, of course, he's dead now, but I would never have gone to see him in concert ever. Maybe if he was like, there was some other groups there that I wanted to see, maybe. But I was never a Jimmy Buffett fan. And there's, some other maybe in that kind of genre that I'm not a fan of. But I can certainly get on board with Christopher Cross and Men at Work and Toto. So it was a great time. And I met Dana over at the Hard Rock. And what was funny is the last time I was there, it's been a little while. My brother and I, was it last year? Maybe it wasn't even 2024. Maybe it was 2023. He and I went to see Tesla at the Hard Rock inside the Hard Rock Hotel. Great show. And beforehand, we'd gone, I think, to the food court to have something to eat before. And there was one other time we were over there. I think we went to the Hard Rock before we went to a concert at the amphitheater where we also went to the food court. So I'm like, Dana, he's driving it from a different direction than I'm coming. So I said, we'll just meet at the food court. He said, sure. And we get there and see here, since the last time I was there, they took the food court out. So in the last year and a half or whatever it was been, it's not there anymore. And so we ended up meeting at the buffet and eating at the buffet, and it was spectacular. It was very, very spectacular, and it was fun. There were a lot of the casino was now it was a Saturday, but it was absolutely packed. You almost couldn't find a place to park in the parking garage. I mean, it was packed. I mean, I was in there. I was like, is this Vegas? What is this? It was absolutely packed. And did it have something to do with the concert? I'm not so sure. But the funny thing is, when my brother and I went to see Tesla, it was on a weekday. I don't even know what day it was not like a Friday or Saturday or Sunday. I just remember being there, and it was also packed. And like on a weekday, it was like a Tuesday or something. Tuesday night, once again, absolutely packed. My perception is that Hard Rock Hotel over there is doing big business. Maybe they aren't, but it's just anecdotal. But we didn't have to wait in line at the buffet, but still, there was quite a few people eating at the buffet. It's a huge, buffet part. But a lot of people gambling, a lot of people losing a lot of money. And so we met there, ate, and then we went out to my car, drove over, parked at the amphitheater, had a long walk to get into the amphitheater, but it was a good time. I was sweating. But once the sun went down, it was all good, and we got out of there fairly easily. They're very organized over there, so it was a really good time. I think that's a great venue for seeing groups. Most recently, I saw Billy Idol there. Some of you might remember me talking about that, Joan Jett and Billy Idol. And then before then, I've seen Kiss there twice. I've seen Def Leppard there twice. I saw Megadeth and the Misfits. Really, I have to admit, we kind of left. I'm not into punk rock at all. I'm not into the Misfits at all. But I saw Misfits and Megadeth there. See anybody else there? Those are all the ones that come to mind. So it's a really great venue. And the next concert that I'm going to be going to, I already picked it out, already have bought the tickets. September, I'm going to go see Dream Theater. Have never been a huge fan of them, but I found out that the woman who is my singing teacher has sung backup on some of their albums. And just coincidentally, Dream Theater is going to be on September 10th, right over here at the Sound at the venue I can see right from my building here over in Clearwater. Who did I see there? I saw 38 Special there in Styx, and I also more recently saw Alice Cooper there, you might remember. I'm going to see Dream Theater over at the Sound in September. So I am excited about that. Probably would not have chosen, even though you would think that's kind of my genre of music, I just don't know a lot about them. Even though they're kind of like Queensryche, and I'm a big Queensryche fan, but still. But what, just coincidentally, she told me that, and I was like, oh my gosh, well, look, they're coming here in concert in September. I got to go. Not that she's on tour with them. She's only sung like in the studio with them. But so it was good. And that's been one of the big things. There's something, all these concerts that could not go see a lot of concerts in Las Vegas because the tickets were always outrageous, and they still continue to be outrageous. Outrageous prices for Vegas because, people that are on vacation, they're just spending money. Oh, Def Leppard's going to be there. We don't mind spending $500 for tickets. And so it was never within my budget to go see. I did go to a couple concerts there. I saw Loverboy and Night Ranger, and I saw Sting there. Way back in the day at the Aladdin Theater. But I really did not go to too many concerts there at all. But now that I'm in Florida and the ticket prices are a lot reasonable, at least in my opinion, I know people complain about that stuff. And I'm like, I don't even remember. I mean, the tickets for this past weekend might have been $75, but you're seeing like 3 Grammy Award winning acts, and they're playing for 3 hours. I mean, what do you want? You go to a baseball game, you can maybe get in cheap, but you start buying drinks and food and everything, it's at least going to be that. And the teams may stink. So I think it's a pretty good deal. And in fact, that one, when Def Leppard and Kiss came out there, I got to see Def Leppard and Kiss for $50. Back in the 80s, of course, when they were in their heyday, I guess you might say, I realize inflation and everything, but what do you think those tickets would have been back in the 1980s? I mean, they might have been $50 in 1980s terms. It's a deal. So no, there's some like Night Ranger came through here recently, and I wanted to go see them. Now their tickets were out of hand. And I like Night Ranger. I really wanted to see them, but I looked at those prices and I'm like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. It just, if it was like front row and everything, okay. But it was like the cheapest seats were like over $100. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So maybe some other time, Night Ranger, would still like to see you, but you're going to have to do something. And that's very rare because like the cheap trick tickets and all these, very, very reasonable. And you have to remember, these are groups that have a lot of hits, a lot of the same band members, Grammy Award winners in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I realize it's going to be a certain price, but still very reasonable. But Night Ranger, you guys were crazy what you wanted for tickets here in the Tampa area. That was crazy. So what's everybody saying? That concert sounds amazing. It was amazing. Well, that lots of folks sound like a great time. Yep, Taylor. Now, Lisa out for my first spot. One spot. I have tickets to Paul McCartney in October in Tulsa. Not really a Beatles fan, but his set list has looked great on his tour. All right. Yeah, I'm not a Beatles fan. So I think Paul McCartney's a good guy. I've seen a lot of interviews with him and everything. But I know that's like that's sacrilegious within the rock and roll community to say that you're indifferent about the Beatles, but you have to remember, by the time I was born, the Beatles were already broken up. And for the most part, except for like the groups I saw this past weekend, I like my music to have a little more crunch to it. So going back to that area, I'm more of a Rolling Stones fan. I'm more of a Led Zeppelin fan. I'm more of a The Who fan. I'm more of a Black Sabbath fan than I could ever be a fan of the Beatles. In fact, I would say that I'm a bigger Elvis fan than I'm a Beatles fan. We're going to see Skynyrd at the Canfield Fair. I saw them and I realized there's a lot of fill-in guys. A lot of them died in that plane crash and everything else. Lynyrd Skynyrd. I hope you have a fantastic time, Charlie. That would be interesting. Probably not a group that I would pay to see. Probably never been a big Lynyrd Skynyrd fan, even back, in the 80s in Leechburg, PA, where everybody loved Lynyrd Skynyrd. Not really my thing, but I hope you get some video and pictures, Charlie. I would love to see them. All right, let's get to, so that's what I've been doing. I do a lot of podcast work, a lot of disappearance work, but I, go out and have interesting times here and there. And by the way, if you're wondering, my dad's doing fantastic. I talked to him today. He's going to play. By this time, it's already done, but he went to play cards. They play 500 up at his the clubhouse in his community, and he loves going up there and kibitzing with everybody. All right, let's move on to tonight's the true crime part of tonight's show. And I'm going to go right into it. We got this cryptocurrency case that I have there in the title. And I have I copied an article. This is a disappearance, by the way, that goes back to May. And this, the story has been out there for a little bit, but I wanted to kind of, how do I put it? I wanted to kind of let it simmer for a little bit, see what was going to happen. Like for a month or month and a half. And I got to be honest, not much has happened. So I guess I got to put this on the front burner now. So this is the cryptocurrency case. You see that in the title for tonight's live show. And here's an article, a very recent article written on this, but it's been the same news since May. Really nothing has changed. So and I'll give some analysis after I read this as to what could be going on. Family members are desperate for answers after a Southern California grandfather disappeared and his bank accounts were emptied. Nai Ping Hao, I know it's first, he's Chinese, Nai Ping, Naiping, and then last name. And I realize in the Chinese culture, they flip, first name is last name is first. Nai Ping Hao, Hou, 74 years old, of Rancho Cucamonga, I've been there, was reported missing on May 4th, according to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. His son, Wen Hao, said that the last time he saw his father was during a fishing trip they took in San Pedro in March of 2025. He was in a very good mood when told KTLA's Sandra Mitchell. He caught a lot of fish. His friends were there too. He was very happy. A few weeks later, Wen became concerned when his father's text messages seemed out of character. He now believes someone else was using his cell phone. He was always saying he's tired, he'll call me later, just reasons that were strange, Wen said. He had very short responses, and he didn't share photos anymore over the course of those couple of weeks. When friends visited Naiping's Rancho Cucamonga home in May, if you don't know where Rancho Cucamonga, it's kind of, I wouldn't even say on the outskirts of LA, but if you're driving from Las Vegas to LA, you have to go through Rancho Cucamonga. My brother and I, Brian, when he was a truck driver, we used to always stop there and go to the movies in Rancho Cucamonga. But when friends visited Naiping's Rancho Cucamonga home in May, they found the residence had been emptied. The interior was renovated and repainted, and there was no sign of the 74-year-old. His cars were also missing from the garage. Authorities decided to check Naiping's bank accounts, and on July 9th, just recently, they confirmed that extensive fraudulent transactions were conducted around the time of his disappearance. His money was also gone, his son said. We were able to track the financial transactions. More than $1 million was withdrawn from his account to purchase physical gold online. Family members believe Naiping was kidnapped. The suspect or suspects involved had also repeatedly tried to sell his vehicles and rent out his home. His wife was out of the country visiting family in China when Hal went missing, loved ones said. As they desperately search for leads on the case, they're offering a $250,000 reward. Wow. For information leading to Naiping's whereabouts or the identification of those involved in his disappearance. Wen described his father as a loving husband and grandfather who enjoyed spending time with family and staying active in his local community. My dad is like the guide to my life. I really miss him. I hope we can find him. Naiping is described as an Asian man who stands 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighs about 170 pounds. He has dark hair, dark eyes, and a birthmark on his upper left chest. Investigators confirmed they are following several leads. As the search continues, his family created a website where more information can be found. Deputies are also seeking information about a silver Toyota Yaris in connection with the man's disappearance. Anyone who may know Naiping's whereabouts or has information is asked to call Detective Vanessa Quezada at 909-890-4848. The public can also leave anonymous tips by calling or contacting the family through text message or WhatsApp or Signal at 213-564-9366. Tips can be submitted through Telegram, and there is a link there that is too confusing for me to read. Anonymous tips can also be provided to WeTip at 1-800-782-7463 or online at wetip.com. Now, this particular article does not mention cryptocurrency, but in several others, it's mentioned that the way that the reason this guy had this $1 million, and I guess his son has some money too, is that they made the money dealing in cryptocurrency. And this kind of was just on the periphery of my reading, but then a listener who loves to send me missing persons articles and interesting things that he reads in the news regarding crime or whatever. He sent me this, and it kind of was like, I should probably talk about this. But I will tell you what I told him, and then I have some other analysis, is that, I know a little bit about investing and everything. I'm fairly good with my money. And, given that I've lived on my own since 1998, and I've had to manage my money and made money and made sure I didn't blow money and living within my means, especially when you're living in Las Vegas and everything. I would never get involved in cryptocurrency ever. I realize, now, of course, I'm Gen X. I'm considered like an old person now, and there's probably some 30-year-old who knows all the ins and outs and cryptocurrency this and cryptocurrency that and everything. But my knee-jerk reaction is cryptocurrency is risky business. And I realize you have all these stories about, okay. But for me, it sounds risky. But this family was involved in that. Like I said, it's not mentioned in this article. But I will admit, when I read the article and talking to this listener who sent me the article, my first response was, you almost have to believe that this has something to do with that. That is, of course, that's kind of a bias that I have. There's no facts to support that. I've never really I only know about cryptocurrency, what I read about it. And I hear these stories about people getting rich, but I also hear about all these people losing all their money. It's very shady, and a lot of con people out there, fraudsters regarding it as well. Of course, there's fraudsters for all different kinds of investments, including just stocks and bonds and everything else. But me personally, I would never put any of my money in that ever. So I admit that I have a little bit of personal bias regarding all of this, and thinking, when I read this story, I start thinking, this sounds like a cryptocurrency problem. For example, were they involved with somebody? Were these people the actual investors in cryptocurrency or whatever it is, and they blew it, and somebody came and I would admit that this seems pretty extravagant for that to have happened, to be honest with you. We know about, of course, Bernie Madoff, a lot of Ponzi schemes and everything that have happened. But for somebody to be involved in that, but to go in and take everything out of the house and repaint the walls and do all this, this seems overtly complicated for somebody who might have been ripped off with cryptocurrency, some sort of deal like that. But it's still something to think about. What also comes to mind is that just generally there are a lot of fraudsters. I even know with my dad, even though my dad, knows kind of, everything that's going on, he still has his mind and all of that. But he gets emails that are really, really convincing, but they're frauds. They get, how many of you, just for example, once in a while, not even once a month now, but it used to happen a lot more often, maybe now once every few months, how many of you have ever gotten one of those emails that says, we've been tracking your internet usage and we've been able to remotely turn on your webcam, and you've been doing things that you shouldn't be doing. And if you don't send money to us, we're going to release this video and these pictures to the world. Raise your hand if you've ever received an email like that. Over the course of the past, 2 years, I've probably gotten 5 or 6 emails like that. We know what you're doing on the internet, Ed. And of course it's fraud. Of course it's not true. Nobody's remotely, of course I'm not doing anything illegally on the internet. I'm not doing anything, that would embarrass me or anything here, even if they could turn on the camera to either of my laptops, like the camera I'm using here on my MacBook or the one over here. Even so, and I'm not one that you could, oh, you want to release, I don't mean to be this, I guess I do mean to be this transparent about it, but if you really, if you somehow, somewhere, got naked pictures of me and you're going to put them on the internet, go ahead and do it. I'm not embarrassed. Go ahead. Just do it. Just do it. It probably could nothing but help my social life. But, but of course, for a lot of people, that would be embarrassing. And we know that has happened with like teenagers, get caught up in something like that. And we know that, many teenagers have committed suicide because of that. But getting back to my dad, he gets these emails, and because he doesn't understand how these things work like I do, he, thinks like, well, somebody's hacked into his computer. We've, this has happened once in a while where I've had to talk to him about that. And I keep telling him, don't click on crap. Don't click on emails. You don't know who the sender is. And so I start thinking, is this could have what happened here? Could this guy, being that he's in his 70s, clicked on some email and got convinced that somebody was able to extort him by lying to him? Because what they do is they'll say, we know you've been doing illegal things online, so just contact this number and we'll get you out of it. This is like the Federal Trade Commission or something. Well, really, of course, the number is to the scammers themselves, but they run a pretty good game. They're very, very skilled at what they do. And you have to remember, all the thousands of emails that they send out, all they need are a few of these people to be fooled to make it worth their while monetarily. And so then I start wondering, could this be what happened to this guy? 74, he's at home, clicks on some email saying, hey, we know what you've been doing. You better do this. You better do that. Come meet us here. Or we're going to, tell everybody that you're a child molester and all these things. And this is something that's also in my mind. That, did he go meet somebody because he thought he was being extorted? And because they allegedly had things he was doing, and then he walked into a big trouble, and they killed him and then went back to his house and took everything. That is also on my mind because of his age. If this were a 30 or 40-year-old, someone like that, then that would not even be on my mind. But I realize that older people, not maybe being schooled on the internet and everything, they can use email and they can go to Facebook and everything, but might not just be as in tune with the scams and fraud that go out there. That's also something that's on my mind regarding this case. What also is on my mind is that, being that I think that these people are Chinese, if you don't know, these stories have popped up, but like, for example, in New York City, the Chinese government actually has operatives in the United States who set up what you might call their own police stations. You can go Google it. It's true. And they have operatives that go out and follow Chinese people who live there. They're not American citizens, but they've come here on green cards or whatever else. And these Chinese operatives working for the Chinese government will try to follow these people around and see what they're doing, and keep track of them and see what they're doing online, and see if they're speaking out against the Chinese government. That's a real thing. Once again, this isn't Kooksville. This is real. It's real. And so I start thinking about that. Was this guy, because of the cryptocurrency thing or something, did this guy get on the Chinese government's watch list? And did somebody, start following him around? Could this be what happened? And we also have to remember the Chinese government does disappear people. Now, I don't know how much, I'm not inclined to believe that much of that goes on here, where these operatives are here working for the Chinese government, and there's some Chinese citizen here on a green card or for whatever reason, and then suddenly that person ends up going missing. I am not sure how much that really goes on. Of course, I'm in the disappearance business. It just doesn't seem to me that is something, but it certainly is over in China. Certainly is people the government doesn't like. Suddenly you can go, I remember a few years ago, there was that tennis player from China who just in one interview said one thing, and all of a sudden you didn't see her anymore. I'm not saying she's dead, but I think that she maybe had to get re-educated a little bit. And so I start thinking about that. Could it be that the Chinese government got involved? Maybe they saw a get-rich-quick scheme from this guy. The only problem I have with that is there are a lot of Chinese citizens in the United States on green cards, and that's fine by me. If the Chinese government was doing this, I think you'd hear a lot more about situations like this, but you don't. So even though I'm thinking about it, I think it is something to think about, I don't know how probable that is either. So I'm not sure that the Chinese government necessarily has had anything to do with this guy's disappearance. But what also sticks out to me, being that I just brought up my dad a few minutes ago, even though he's in Pennsylvania and I'm down here. But if this is true, what this son is saying, well, my father wasn't texting the right way. It was kind of weird, and he didn't want to talk on the phone, whatever. What were the quotes that he said? Let me see here. He said, always saying he's tired. He said he'd call me back later, just reasons that were strange. He has very short responses over texting. He didn't share any photos anymore over the course of those weeks. I can tell you that if, I talk to my dad almost every day, not every day. I spoke to him yesterday, spoke to him today, but it would not be unusual that being that I spoke to him today, it wouldn't be unusual for me to then speak to him again until like Wednesday night after trivia, where I, get the trivia questions and see if he can answer them. So that would not be unusual. But it would be unusual if I didn't speak to him for 2 weeks. In fact, it would be unusual if I didn't speak to him for a week. And certainly, I would be very, very, very worried about what's going on if, I was trying to call him and he wasn't getting back to me, or I was texting him, he wasn't getting back to me. No way would that even go for a week. That wouldn't even go for 5 days. It might go for a couple days, but not 5 days, and surely not a week. Here we're talking about a month. And the son even admits, well, something didn't seem right. There's something about that that doesn't seem right to me. Once again, just the way kind of the relationship I have with my father, and especially since it seems that this son lived much closer to his father than I do to mine. Could this son not call the local police, a lot quicker than a month to go over there and see what was going on? Even if he didn't know any neighbors, could he not have done that? You'd think. He didn't. It was over a month. It sounds unusual. And it very well maybe that's just the relationship they had. It very well may be. I don't know. We need to know more about how often the son and the father communicated with each other before this all happened. They said they saw each other in March. Well, over the past year, how often were they communicating with each other? And if you're going to tell me, well, they would go a month at a time without really just having a few texts and not talking on the phone or anything, then I guess this is unusual. But on the other hand, what if we were to find out that, they talk 3 days a week or something, and then the son's just fine then with not talking to him for a month? You wouldn't see there's something weird there. So we just have to remember if this is all true, what did it say in here? Trying to sell vehicles. The issue is this happened way back in May. And here we are midway through July, and they admit, well, somebody's trying to sell his vehicles, renting out his home, and they don't know who that is. Somebody came in and painted where were the neighbors regarding all? Maybe they live in, maybe it's like a mansion or something. I don't know. And there isn't there isn't a neighbor within a quarter mile. I don't know. Just seems like, this kind of goes back to like maybe what we think about the Missy Beavers murder, or what we thought about the Brinks robbery that also happened in California. Of course, we now know what happened there, where you hear what happened and you're like, how did they not solve this in like a week? Yet here we are. A Chinese man is missing. I guess he lived by himself. And it did say his wife was out of the country at the time. I mean, did the father take off? Did he say, I don't want to be married anymore? I'm going to take all this money and, disappear on my own? Maybe. Does this sound like, could this be a gang or something? It just sounds a little too complicated for your average. I mean, that's pretty provocative to clear out a guy's house. I guess when it was clear out, I guess took all the furniture and everything, and then rent it out and sell his vehicles and everything. I mean, that is pretty brash. And you're not thinking you're going to get caught. Somebody eventually, even if the son's not involved, I mean, eventually somebody was going to know that he was missing. And here you are trying to sell a missing person's vehicles. So it's good. I think that they're going to figure this one out. I think there are just too many leads here. We have these fraudulent transactions. They're going to be able to figure out the IP addresses for all this, even though I know VPNs can be used and those things can be faked. The $1 million was used to purchase physical gold online. What kind of average criminal in the United States is going to do that? That doesn't seem likely to me. It's very, very unique type of case. And so I'm guessing that whatever the solution is to this, whatever the resolution is to this, is going to be unique as well. I think somewhere within all of my analysis and theorizing, I think somewhere within all of that is the answer. I'm not ready to put any money on any of those, except to say probably the Chinese government is not involved, even though I do know that they keep track of this stuff. I know they do for Chinese people who are here in the United States. Let's see what everybody is saying. Yeah, great minds think alike. Rockford says, hello, Rockford. I sent you an email today, Rockford. Did you get it? Rockford, I'm Gen X too, but a fan of crypto. Like any other asset, it's unwise to be too heavily invested in it. Also, it's a good way to keep Uncle Sam out of your finances. Okay. Amy says, I get plenty of car warranty emails. Yeah, if my emails were only that simple, Amy. Charlie says, nope, I get other weird phishing emails, though. Okay. Roger, too many evil people doing evil deeds. That's certainly true, Roger. A lot of people trying to, and they are very, very skilled at it, making it sound like they're from the government and everything else. Yeah, I know. Rockford, there was the Chen family murders in upstate New York where some have alleged government connection. Nice town as is Rancho in this case you're describing, and normal law-abiding family. I'm vaguely familiar with that, Rockford. I would have to look up the particulars to draw any, if there are any parallels or something. Sharon, hi from Aussie. Love your show. Well, Sharon, I started up tonight talking about one of the best-known rock groups from Australia, Men at Work. I saw them this Saturday right here in Tampa. It was fantastic. Thank you to your country for giving the world such fantastic music. Of course, AC/DC too. So thank you for that. So hello, Sharon. Good to see you tonight. Thank you for making time. So I'm going to keep an eye on this cryptocurrency thing. But I think mainly what I'm going to take away from this is the son saying, I thought things were strange, but he didn't do anything about it. This is always something that catches my mind in any type of situation. Like, for example, I was reading about a disappearance today. I was doing my disappearance reading today that I do every day. And I was reading about a case where a woman who ended up going missing. There were witnesses who said, oh, yeah, we saw her walking down the street and there were blood dripping down her legs and everything else. And I'm like, you didn't stop. I mean, I'm a pretty cynical guy, and I tend to keep to myself and everything. But I'm pretty sure if I were driving down Gulf Boulevard and I saw a woman walking down the street and there were blood dripping down her legs, that I would stop. I'm not saying I would go up to her because who knows what would be going on, but I would stop and examine what's going on and probably call 911 and everything else. But we have a disappearance case where the woman goes missing and then several people say, oh, yeah, we saw this woman and, she's walking down the street, blood dripping down, and none of them stopped. Am I supposed to believe that? So with this, he's saying, well, I thought things were strange. And once again, he didn't do anything about it, even though it's his own father. Okay. I guess. But, we know in disappearances how people who cause disappearances put off calling the cops or whatever for as long as possible. And so you might see a situation if maybe a family member did have something to do with this grandfather's disappearance for whatever reason, cryptocurrency or anything, that, okay, he's gone. Well, we're going to get rid of his stuff and we're not going to tell everybody. We're going to try to put this off as long as possible. Easy to understand. What's hard to understand is if they know the house, somebody's trying to rent out the house and sell the cars and everything, can they just not pretend to be a buyer of one of these cars and see who shows up? Pretend to be the renter. They want to rent the house and see who shows up. So I'm not sure it's really, that's why we're talking about it. It caught my attention. Obviously, it caught a listener's attention first and then really put it on the radar for me. So Rockford says, you got my email. All right, very good. All right, so that's that story. That is the cryptocurrency case, even though in the technically in the story, cryptocurrency is not brought up. But the reason this family has the money that they do is because they said they got, rich in cryptocurrency. And I'll go back to how I started this. That alone makes me suspicious, even though Rockford's saying, well, it's not that crazy. Okay. Let's go to the Steve Pankey letter. Just one page, just one side of one page. And I've already read it. And I think I can read a majority of it. Sometimes when he writes things, there's certain things I can't read because they're inflammatory and they very well could be lies and could be, defamation going on and everything else. And I've even told him that. In the letters that I've written to him, I say, you mentioned these things. I just want you to know, you want me to read your letters to the world. Well, there's a lot of things you put in these letters I can't read because I just can't do that. And he continues to do it. So there's that. All right. This is the most recent letter, Steve Pankey. Maybe I need to tell everybody who he is, just so I don't take it for granted. Anybody who is new here, Steve Pankey was eventually convicted for the disappearance of murder of Janelle Matthews. This is the case in which I was, I guess you'd say I was a witness and went out to Greeley, Colorado a couple times for both trials. He was convicted during the second trial. And now I have been had a correspondence with Steve for about 2 years now. I think I wrote the first letter to him in the summer of 2023, somewhere in there. He was convicted in like November of 2022. And like I said, I think about halfway through 2023 is when I wrote the first letter. And since then, we've written several letters back and forth, him writing way more to me than I've written to him. I've asked him many questions. I save all the letters. I save all the answers that he's, and I have to say, every question that I've asked him, he answers. Now, and I've read some of those answers here on the live show, whether you believe him or not, that's up to you. Why do I correspond with him? Well, as I've been more than clear about this, there is a part of me, there is 100% of me that thinks that the prosecution, even though I was a part of the prosecution, that I do not think that it proved its case. 100% of me believes that. That doesn't mean that Steve didn't do it. It just means that I do not think that it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I think at the end of that trial, there were still many, many people, even people not named or we don't even know they exist, who could have kidnapped and killed Janelle Matthews that night. That is my insight, knowing everything that I know about the trials and all the reading that I've done and everything else. To a lesser extent, much lesser extent, there is a part of me that doubts that Steve killed Janelle, for the reasons that there's not even any proof he even knew she existed. He knew that the family existed. The family admitted they'd never heard of Steve Pankey. He lived at least a couple miles away, which is plenty. No reason to be on that street. On and on and on and on. Yes. Okay. He knew Russ Ross, who dropped Janelle Matthews off that night. A lot of people knew Russ Ross. A lot of people did. And I certainly don't think that Russ Ross murdered Janelle Matthews. So there's that. So I keep this correspondence with him. And I think as much as Steve talks, and if you've been around long enough, you know how much Steve likes to talk. What I think is noteworthy is that he's never slipped. I know the police will say, well, he slipped about regarding the footprints in the snow and everything. Only the police knew that. That's not true. And after, if I can say this, after getting the discovery materials that really I can't talk about and everything that I've read in them, but I think that it's more than clear already publicly that many people knew about the footprints in the snow, not just Steve. So to me, that's not a slip up. But all of the over 3-hour interview that I did with him, in which we found out it did lie about a few things, and which doesn't surprise me. And all the letters that he's written to me and all the questions that I've asked him, he's never once slipped up. And this is a guy who does a lot of talking. So that is also noteworthy to me. But here's the letter. Hi, Ed. Hope your visit with your father went well. I lost my father in 2016. All right, so before he was charged. You will always be glad for the time you spend with your father. That's true. Steve's, and I asked him a question about, how much access does he have to the news and the internet and all that stuff while he's in jail. He says, I do not have internet access, so my outside info comes through a few TV channels, phone calls, and letters. So he has no internet access. But I do know that he did get to watch the series that came out last August, in which I was a part of it. Somehow he got to see that. I asked him who his appellate attorney, of course, he's appealed his conviction. And I asked him who his appellate attorney is. And so here's what he says. My appellate attorney is Patrick Mulligan, Mullign, and Daniel Kent, Kent, of the law firm of Mulligan Bright, LLC in Denver. Mr. Mulligan is arguably Colorado's #1 appellate attorney. I'm in good hands. God will determine the outcome. In this letter also, he says, and keep in mind, I wasn't there. At a past conviction hearing, Judge Kearns, who was the judge for both trials, he was the judge in the first trial who told me while I was on the stand, Ed, I think that you are the first person we've had on the stand where we actually have to turn your volume down, which was pretty funny. At a post-conviction hearing, Judge Kearns stated the case was likely to be overturned on appeal. DA O'Rourke told Dateline NBC Angela Hicks was the case. Everyone agrees there is no evidence I either kidnapped or murdered Janelle, period. He says that his opening brief is due in August to be filed in the Colorado Court of Appeals. The Colorado Attorney General will likely get an extension due to the massive 30,000-page case file. Oh, my goodness. And that was that. And then, and Steve finishes with, there are two courts, the judicial courts and the court of public opinion. And he obviously knows about Karen Reed. Recently, Karen Reed won in both. I pray I will soon win in both courts as well. Thank you, Steve Pankey. That is the letter. And like I said, I think I read all of it. I think that was all okay for public consumption. So he's appealing his conviction. This is the reason that I have to put my work on the discovery materials on hold. According to the attorney that I spoke to here in Florida, the pages, like I said, it was an incredible amount of work that I went reading through all that, taking extensive notes on it. But unfortunately, and I want to do a series on it, I just can't right now. One day, when the appeals, of course, if the appeals go Steve's way, then he'll be a free man again. That would be something. But either way, once the appellate appeals are done or whatever happens, I guess I'll have to wait until then. All I can tell you is that in going through the discovery materials, that they were a complete eye-opener. And you know me, I don't sensationalize things. You know I don't. I suppose there are some criticisms from me and other things. But when it comes to sensationalism, that's not what I do. You know that. But I'm here to tell you, reading those pages, it was an eye-opener. I think I can tell you this. I don't think there's anything wrong with me telling you this. The fact is, within all of those thousands of pages of discovery material, Steve is in less. I mean, it's been a while since I looked at those. I would say of those thousands and thousands of pages of discovery materials, he's in less than 50 of them. That's it. He's mentioned. There's documents, talking to him, but not very much. So you're probably wondering, what's in all the other pages? Can't talk about it. Sorry, I can't. Let's see what everybody's saying here. Stephanie, hello, Stephanie. What's going on? Good to see you. Sharon, currently traveling around this beautiful country, setting up camp at the moment. So listen to your show tonight. I'm addicted to Unfound. Well, good thing for you, Sharon. It's a healthy addiction, just like being addicted to Brussels sprouts. Love seeing you in the series about Janelle. I was just talking recently with somebody about that, Lisa. And, I have a lot of criticisms for the way TV covers crimes and disappearance. This has been the live show has been that forum for me talking about that. It doesn't hardly ever come up in the podcast or anything, but I've aired my grievances on here. And certainly I have my grievances even about that show from last August. But I will be honest with this. It went way better than I thought it would, given that toward the end of my part of it, I thought that the director was really trying to get something out of me that I didn't want to say. And in fact, you'll remember as we were heading to the car afterwards, what did I say? I guess you found your bad guy for this series. And that's not the way it ended up. And I thank them for that. I really, 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 truly, 100% thank them for that. But also, I'm happy that they allowed me to say what I needed to say. And that was, I have doubts that he did it. That got included in that series was enough for me to say, yep, I'm happy with my appearance. They were honest about it, because that's me. They didn't twist my words or anything, and I cannot thank them enough. So I appreciate that, Lisa. I thought that for me, it could not have gone any better. So, and I still have it saved on my DVR on my TV. Lurch, regarding the crypto case, the person who bought physical gold online has to either pick it up or have some physical address to receive it. I hope police checked for video. There you go, Lurch. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. Yeah, good point. Once again, doesn't sound like the smartest thing to do if you want to get away with causing somebody's disappearance. And I'll go back to what I said then, very good point. Thank you for that. Renting the house out, buying gold, selling the cars and everything. I mean, what's going on here? You'd think that this would be solved by now. So there's something going on here that I guess all of us don't completely get. But Lurch, thank you for bringing that up. If that's true, that sounds sensible to me. So thank you for bringing that up. I know about that, Steve. She wanted court. I don't know. D says, Roger, Ed, do you think Nancy Grace is honest? Wow, Roger. I don't want enough. I guess by me hesitating, I guess you know what the answer is. I'm just going to go on the record and say I'll just go back very early on in Unfound's existence that Lee Clifton, who is still the local expert on the disappearance of Kelly Rothwell right here in Indian Rocks Beach, right down the street. Nancy Grace covered Kelly Rothwell's disappearance like way before Unfound ever existed. What Lee Clifton told me is that she corresponded with Nancy Grace's people, gave them all the information that she had collected about David Perry and Kelly Rothwell and everything else. Nancy Grace covered Kelly Rothwell's disappearance and never gave Lee Clifton credit for anything. So I'll just stick to that. I'll just stick to that. And even before that, before I even heard that story, even well before I ever started Unfound, I've never had a high opinion of Nancy Grace. She's what I call a bomb thrower. She says things to get a rise out of people. She's a sensationalist. I do not believe that she is that intelligent regarding crime or anything else. She should be on TMZ or the National Enquirer or something. My opinion, given that I'm in the same genre of media that she is. This is what exacerbates me. These people I'm going to go to CrimeCon. I know CrimeCon's going on, and I don't think I'm going to get to that tonight. Maybe I will. But this is what I get this. exasperates me. People going to CrimeCon. I can't wait to get a picture with Nancy Grace, and I can't wait to... I don't get that at all. I would like to think that, I'm over here, when it comes to true crime recording, and she's like way over here for true crime reporting. I'd like to think. The audience, everybody else, you can be the judge of it. I don't want to get into an honesty battle. I don't have any proof that she's ever lied about anything, but I take it from somebody who's actually dealt with her and her people that they did not give credit where credit was due, and that always is a bad sign. I'd like to think that even when it comes to guests, coming on, if somebody's helped me get a guest on Unfound, I try to remember. It's not, maybe sometimes I've forgotten, but I always try to thank anybody who has facilitated a guest appearing on Unfound. And as you know, I never mind giving credit to my assistants like Eric doing fantastic work on this Coast Guard series we're working on. It's going very, very, very slowly. Of course, Emily with all the guests that she has brought to Unfound and everybody else, I try to do that. So when I hear that somebody hasn't done that, it really sticks with me. So there you go. That's my answer, Roger. Derek, Steve Pankey seems like a very contradictory person. Derek, he's a weird guy. They even put that in the series too last August. What did I say? He's a weird cat. He is. Weird, just because you're weird doesn't mean you're a murderer. He's just a weird guy. And I think he's been that way forever. I don't think that it's a show. I don't think it's a put on. I don't think he's faking anything. The way he writes these letters is exactly the way he talked in the interview or any other talking that you've ever seen him do, of course, before he went to jail. But he's a very contradictory person. I think he's just weird, unusual, and as I've said many times, even though I'm corresponding with him and I get along with him, and you should know, he is always courteous. Thank you, please. Even all the run up to me interviewing him way back in 2019, always courteous. Has no problem in those areas. That doesn't mean he couldn't have killed somebody. He's just a weird guy. I'm no psychiatrist. I know they made an attempt to bring certain things into the trials, and it doesn't seem like that went very well, and was even that was contradictory, expert versus expert. Just a paranoid guy, but he was like that, I think, well before Janelle Matthews ever went missing. Hello, Dee Dee. What's going on? Good to see you. Dee says, I don't trust Nancy. I could care less about CrimeCon. Amy says, don't get me started, Amy. Amy's trying to get me started. Stephanie, I feel that you're loosely in the same genre. Nancy Grace mainly sees herself as an entertainer. I think, well, that's unfortunate. If that's the way she sees herself, then she's even worse than I thought. If she actually thinks, I'm not saying, I don't know, I've never watched her. I've cut clips of her, and I have watched clips on YouTube. If they had to do with this, if she talked about a disappearance that I was going to feature on Unfound, then yes, I'll watch it just to see. But so I've never watched a total episode of her show, even going back to before I started Unfound. And I know she was on this channel, that she was on that channel. Oh, no. I don't know. The overall thing about her is, even take the genre out of it, I don't know how anybody can stand her. Even if she was reporting on opera or on sports, I don't know how anybody could take her. But as I've said, I have a huge problem with overall media today, and she would have to be thrown in there. She might be the off air. She might be the nicest person in the world and everything else. But on air, I know enough to know that I don't want to be like her. D agrees with Stephanie. Hello, Maureen. What's going on? Good to see you. Glad you could make time tonight. The show's going well, if you were wondering. So that is the Steve Pankey letter. I guess I'm due to write him another one. Probably could put that on my agenda for maybe later this week. Moving on, of course, this past Friday, Anthony Reyes. He was the topic. He and his disappearance, of course, very, very new, just a little over a year ago. His mother, Barbara, was the guest. I thought she did a great interview. I did put a poll in the discussion group regarding what do you think happened? Did he walk off and is he still alive? Did he walk off and he's deceased? Was there foul play? Did somebody pick him up? And overwhelmingly in the discussion group, people said that he walked off and he is deceased. That's even though, of course, we had a great discussion regarding Anthony and the disappearance last night in the think tank. Patreon.com/Unfound podcast if you'd like to join. Pretty much, of course, a little more nuanced in the think tank as it usually is, but for the most part, that was the conclusion in the think tank last night, that he walked off and that he is now deceased. And that, for the blog that I write for only $2 a month, and you get some other things too, once again, patreon.com, that is the conclusion that I came to, that there was no foul play. Certainly could have happened, and certainly we've featured, when I got thinking about it, we've featured more disappearances than I realized where women could have been the instigators. Of course, we know one for sure, Tyler North. But we also had Jeff Nichols, of course, his ex-wife. She said, hey, I got these golf clubs. Can you come pick them up? He goes missing. More recently, we had Shannon Collins, who, of course, his wife and her daughter have now been charged with a variety of offenses having to do with his military benefits. Nothing regarding necessarily his disappearance, but they continued to collect his money after he went missing, which is illegal. And certainly there are enough people out there who think that she had something to do with his disappearance. And, of course, his brother, who was the guest for Shannon, man, it seems like yesterday. I think it's been a couple years now. Of course, he certainly believes that the wife had something to do with it. It's up to whatever all of you want to believe. So we have featured some where women were the instigators. So when it comes to Anthony's wife, we can think about it. And certainly if the situation were reversed, would certainly think about if Anthony were Amanda and it was her husband who's saying, yeah, she just walked off. But certainly conceivable, certainly possible. I just don't think, I decided that it just wasn't very probable. We got a time element here, and I don't know if anybody really could predicted that Barbara was going to leave at that time and come back at that time, and it's just too many moving parts. So I think Anthony walked off, paranoid, schizophrenic, thought people were after him. He had already gone away once and brought back. I will say that I do not think it's a coincidence that he goes missing right after he got out of the hospital. I certainly believe, me personally, now in the think tank, I'm not, so there were some people who didn't think this way. Fine, totally fine. But I think that the hospital stay and him running off are connected. I do not believe it's a coincidence. I got to thinking that, was he, he's paranoid schizophrenic, and then he's in the hospital for 45 days. And maybe he started thinking, you know what, I can't trust my wife or my mother, anybody now. And so he took an opportunity to run away from, before he maybe thought he could trust his mother. And this is not to put Barbara down. I think that they were, under the circumstances, they're probably doing the best they could do. And they were hoping he'd be in the hospital and get things sorted out, change medication, wherever it would take, and get on a better track. That didn't happen. But I'm wondering if he's sitting in there not wanting to be there, and he just like, no, I just can't trust anybody. I know that that's his schizophrenia talking. I think that Barbara and the wife probably did as best as they could do. And Anthony just didn't want to go along with it, as most paranoid schizophrenics don't want to do. It's pretty common. So he said, I'm out of here, ran off now. What that means and where he could be and everything, that gets very complicated. Did a map analysis, and I'm going to stick to what I usually say in these circumstances. I think he's probably within a mile of the house. And, but I got to believe that he'll be found in that area one day. But he could be alive, and I hope he is. Let's see. What's everybody saying here? Maureen, I've always wanted to ask you this and keep forgetting. Do you go swimming in the water, walk on the beach? I have not been in the Gulf for a little while, Maureen, to be honest. And as far as walking on the beach, not very recently either. I know that sounds crazy. And well, what do you do? Why do you even do that? I'm not a big fan of this. I know I live here in Florida, and that's funny, but I'm not a big fan of the sun. And skin cancer does run in my family, even though I go disc golfing and everything. But I really try to limit my sun time. Even when I go up and throw the discs up at this park north of me, I'm in the shade. So I really just love the view. I love the feeling and all of that. And I love seeing the people having a great time down on the beach and all of that. But as far as swimming and everything, it's been a little while, to be honest. But that's a great question. I think that might be the first time that's actually been asked on the live show, Maureen. So thank you for that. Rockford says, I don't trust Nancy Grace or search dogs. Not to get you started. Yeah, you, Rockford, trying to get me started tonight. D, we also had the one guy here in Oklahoma regarding women getting set up, women setting things up. Amy, her behavior was strange. Too much effort to get a sock out of laundry. Well, Amy, that's true. I realize that's what Barb said. I think Barb's telling the truth. But I got to admit, Amy, my insight into that, it very well could have been that the wife was just thinking, man, why are we doing all this when we know that Anthony's going to just show up alive here in no time? What are we doing here? She might have thought that doing all of this is only going to, rewarding bad behavior type of thing. Could be. I realize what you're saying, Amy, and I think probably a lot of people think that, but I think you also have to put yourself in the wife's shoes with her living with Anthony's paranoid schizophrenia for so long and walking off so long, and I'm always coming back. She might have thought, really, after all this time, we're going to start getting socks, we're going to get dogs. I mean, what are we doing here? We all know he's still alive and he's going to come back here. What are we doing? Of course, she ended up being wrong, but she couldn't have known that. It's like one of those things, like I've stated before. I'm not telling you to change your mind. I'm just telling you how I looked at it. It's like, there's a reason every time a person goes missing that we don't get the dogs and the ATVs and the helicopters and everything out every time. Because if you did it every time, every police department in the nation would be broke. So it's the same kind of way when we bring that down to like a family, that if we're going to start getting the laundry out and getting the dogs out every time a paranoid schizophrenic walks out, even though every time to this point he's eventually come back, then what are we doing? It seems it seems like unnecessary. And I'm thinking in the moment, she was thinking it was unnecessary. I also, though, have to admit that we have to be open to the idea, even though she didn't have anything to do with his disappearance, it very well could have been in that month where he was gone. She might have noticed, man, it's so much calmer around here when he's not around. And before you think ill of her and thinking, oh, how could she ever think that? A lot of married people think like that and they end up getting divorced. In fact, even though I've never been married or anything, I'm guessing that that's probably one of the ways people figure out, you know what? I don't think I want to be married anymore. I've never cheated on my husband. He's a decent guy. But man, when he's out of town on business, man, it just seems like I'm in a better mood. And that doesn't mean that when he comes back, she's going to kill him or anything. But I think we're all adults here that we realize these things go on. Rockford, excellent map analysis. Thank you. Don't sleep on the map analyses, folks. Very helpful for context and orientation. I know they don't get many views, but I think the people that watch it really get something out of it. I'm doing my best. I'm going to keep doing them. I'm going to keep doing them, even though I know a lot of people don't watch them. I can't say I'm that disappointed about it. A little, but not a lot. I like doing them. I'm here to educate. I'm here to learn. I'm here to educate. And there have been enough people over the years who've said that, man, that's really helped me understand the disappearance. And so I got to keep doing them. It's that cliche. If it only helps one person, a teacher, if I've only set one student on the right path in his or her life, then I've succeeded. I guess that's the way I just have to feel about my map analysis videos, Rockford. All right, what else do I have to get to? 2003 Washington disappearance. Yeah, let's get to that because I said that I always have to promise all of you if it's in the headline, I got to get to it. This disappearance popped up. It's one of these missing persons pages that I follow on Facebook that they randomly put up disappearances. I don't even know who runs any of these pages, or I've never spoken to anybody of any of these pages. But I want to talk about the disappearance of Austin Renshaw. That's a fantastic name, by the way. Austin Renshaw. Austin purchased a meal at a McDonald's fast food restaurant at 7:30 a.m. on October 27th, 2003 in Spring Glen, Washington. He vanished afterwards and has never been heard from again. His car, a blue 1993 Hyundai Accent with a license plate number 889 HDS, was found abandoned in the parking lot of the Chinook Middle School in Seattle-Tacoma, what they call SeaTac, Washington, and was towed on November 6th. Over a week after Renshaw's disappearance, the school is about 25 miles from his home. In the car, they found a partially eaten part of that McDonald's meal, a receipt for the food, and some cash was also there. And the car hood was damaged, but no other clues were located. Renshaw lived with two male roommates in Maple Valley, Washington at the time of his disappearance and was working construction with them. His roommates believe he may have taken his own life, but Austin's father and the police believe foul play was involved in his disappearance. His father says it would be extremely uncharacteristic of Renshaw to abandon his car. Austin attended several area churches, including the Real Life Church in Maple Valley, but hasn't shown up at any of them since his disappearance. A few days before he went missing, Renshaw told his sister he was afraid for his life. Kind of reminds us of Anthony Reyes. No one has been charged in connection with Renshaw's case. His family believes he was murdered, and investigators also suspect he met with foul play, but little evidence is available. His case is unsolved. I will right off the top of this say that I do not believe that foul play played a role in this disappearance. I'm reading this, by the way, from the Charlie Project. And I'm going to believe what was written there. And, them thinking that foul play is well. I understand why families think that. But there's nothing that I read here to believe that it's foul play. Now, there may be more information that the police can't release that points in that direction. But having looked at this and read some articles, like articles that were written at the time of Austin's disappearance in 2003, nothing really that pushes me in a foul play direction. What was a little confusing to me about this is that, all right, so he went out on October 27th, but his car sat in a school parking lot for 9 days until November 6th, and nobody did anything about it. It was sitting there the whole time. That's what this says. Seems a little odd to me. You'd think, especially when it comes to school grounds, I could see maybe if it's like a Walmart parking lot, or what might be another good example. Maybe like a parking garage, like when I was over at the Hard Rock. Of course, all these casinos, big hotels have these parking garage. I can understand if it's parked in a parking garage for 9 days and nobody does anything, or in a Walmart parking lot, nobody does anything for 9 days. But a school parking lot, especially when it's in like the fall when school would have been in session, that is a little puzzling to me. I'm wondering if that is really real. I'm not saying that Charlie Project Megan wrote this up and lied or anything. I'm just wondering if that is really, 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 really what happened, or did the car just magically appear there on November 4th, 5th, or 6th? Now, of course, that was the situation. I guess I might be more inclined to think that there was foul play. But if it was automatically there on October 27th and it sat there all that time, it wasn't towed to the 6th, to me, that would mean it's less likely to be foul play. Which school is it, Maureen? His car was found at the Chinook Middle School in Seattle, Tacoma, Washington. Now, of course, I did do a Google search, so I'll get into it in a second. There are a couple different Chinook Middle Schools. So if you're going to look that up, Maureen, make sure you get the right one. It's the Chinook Middle School that's in the Seattle, Tacoma, Washington area. So if you put it into Google Maps, I think you should put SeaTac, SeaTac, and that'll point you to the right Chinook, Chinook Middle School. So he went at 7:30 in the morning to eat, and then eventually his car was found at that school, towed away, and within the car, as I stated, part of the meal that he got was there. The receipt was there. Some cash was also there, and the hood was damaged. Now, I did look this up. Like I said, on Google Maps, there is a lake near the school. Certainly easily within walking distance, but it's really not that large of a lake. And I have to believe that, and it's like in a, it's kind of in a urban area anyway. If he went into the lake, he surely would have been found by now. I think he would have been discovered in the lake very, very quickly. Now, there is a much, much, much larger body of water, but it's quite, certainly, I guess you could walk. If I wanted to walk to Alaska from Florida, you can do that. But if he really wanted to go to this larger body of water, if he was suicidal or something, it just seems unlikely. It's far enough away that certainly could have walked it, but sounds unlikely to me. Once again, you can look at the map and decide that for yourself. But here are some things that we don't know that would be helpful that are not included. I've gone to the web sleuths. I've gone and checked articles, of course, Charlie Project, anybody else maybe that's covered this disappearance over the years. Here are some things that are still unknown to me that would really help me analyze this disappearance. Was he going to work that day? I don't see anything written anywhere. Did he have a job? It says he was construction, but was he going to a construction job that day? Did the company not, try to call? Of course, 2003, did he have a phone? Maybe. I got my first cell phone, at least modern cell phone, in 2003. Could they have not have called him? Did he not call him at home to find out? I'd really want to know, was he going to work that day? And of course, a lot of construction jobs happen at night. Was he getting off work and stopping at McDonald's? That might be helpful to know as well. We just don't know. I'd also like to know, was it common for him to stop at this McDonald's at that time of the morning? Don't know. You know me, I'm all about patterns. This is why you've heard me ask so many times, well, was it common for that person to do that on that day at that time? This is like Anthony Reyes. Is it a coincidence or not that he went missing right after he got out of the hospital? And there are many, 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 many examples throughout Unfound's history where things happen and you're trying to figure out, what if we were to hear that he had never stopped at that McDonald's at that time in the morning to do that? Might mean something. Would have to put that with other information, but it might mean something. I'd want to know a lot more about this McDonald's stop. There's this damage on the hood of his car. I don't know what that means. Usually, when you damage the hood of your car, that means probably something else got damaged as well, like a fender or a bumper or a headlight. So what kind of damage are we talking about? I don't think there are any pictures. I have to admit I didn't search, but is there any pictures of this damage? Could anybody who might know a little bit about car damage be able to look at the damage and be able to say, well, what happened here? Did he actually hit something? Did something get dropped on the hood? Like, for example, did somebody throw a brick at the car and it hit the hood? So the hood got damaged and nothing else got hit. This is all relevant. Because, like I said, what catches my attention is it says the hood was damaged, but the way cars are built, all of you know, if you hit some other car, you may get hood damage. Of course, if it's it's a major wreck. But what else is the fender, the headlight, the grill, maybe a tire or something? And I didn't read any of that. All I see is the hood. All I'm seeing is the hood. So that is a little confusing to me. Now, I did read, although it was not in the body of the Charlie Project write-up, as you might predict, he did have a substance abuse issue in the past. So I think that is noteworthy. And let me just look something up here real quickly, because I didn't write that in my notes. Here it is. And we do have to remember he was 22 at the time. So substance abuse in the past could not have been too far in the past. Of course, he was 50 and there was substance abuse in the past. Well, he might have been doing drugs in his 20s and then cleaned his act up. Austin was only 22. So any drug issues could not have been that far in the past. And so this is certainly something that we have to consider for his disappearance. Then maybe the biggest issue is he feared for his life. His sister said that she told him he feared for his life. And as usually the case, we got nothing more than that. I mean, how many times have we heard that over the past 9 years of people who eventually went missing saying, he he feared for his life. Well, who did he fear? Well, he never said. Just people, just like Anthony Reyes. People, quote unquote, people are after him. Well, who? And never can they say. Now, certainly maybe once in a while somebody said, well, the government is after me. Men in black suits and black cars are after me. Aliens are after me. But for the most part, when people express this, it does seem it's just somebody's after me. Somebody's after me. Who? Well, somebody's after me. I just don't. And that's the way it sounds like with Austin. That had something maybe along the lines of paranoid schizophrenia, or it could have been drug-induced. To me, this sounds like some sort of either drug-induced psychosis or some sort of manic attack, something like that. Maybe he was having paranoid schizophrenia. Maybe he was never diagnosed, something. And it hit him right in the process of eating. I know that may sound unusual, but I mean, there's nothing saying that you can't go into a panic attack or mania or anything while in the middle of eating. I don't think there's any law against that. And as far as foul play, this is one of those things that I don't get. That any murder, even if the murder is not money related, I'm pretty sure a murderer would take the cash that's in the car. Even if it wasn't money related. If it were, there was some sort of, road rage or something, and somebody went and, parked his car there, they'd see the money there, they'd take it. They would take it. This also tells me, at least the conclusion that I come to, that this is not foul play. This is something else. This is, I think, a young man who had mental issues, drug issues that ran off. Now, why wasn't he found? Why is he still missing 22 years later? I wish I knew. We do have to remember that the car was found 25 miles from where he lived. I think that means something. So we can't even, if he was that far out of his way, and, once again, would have to know, was there construction in that area at the time? Is that where he was supposed to be going? Don't know. See what everybody is saying here. D says she catches the map analysis when I'm big on a case. Rockford, I think a school would be likely to quickly identify and report a car that didn't belong there for safety reasons. I agree, Rockford. That's why I don't know. I don't know what to tell you on that. I'm just, it's hard to decipher. I'm not saying that Megan wrote it up wrong or anything. It's just hard to understand. Maureen, I know they have nothing to do with each other at all. That is Gary Ridgway's stomping grounds. Okay. That is where he picked up his victims along that strip. It's cleaned up now, so it is a safer area. So Maureen saying, well, this is Gary Ridgway territory. What year was he caught, though? Wasn't he caught by 2003, Maureen? Or maybe I'm wrong about that. Rockford, the work issue is also important because free time can turn into mischief time for some people who have substance abuse problems. Yeah, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Rockford, for sure. Rockford, good theory and manic episode. Logan Schindelman vibes. Coincidentally, same state. Not sure how close. The name is familiar. Derek, sounds a little like Trevor Nichols' disappearance from Fort Drum. I think he had undiagnosed mental health issues before he left. Boy, Derek, I think it's very insightful. Yeah, regarding Trevor Nichols, I certainly believe that him running off was not necessarily about him being in the Army and wanting to go AWOL and everything. I think that's very insightful, Derek. This was not a situation where he didn't want to be in the Army anymore, so he took off, and so now he's living on the streets of San Diego. Yeah, no. This is something, and he just didn't want to be married or whatever else. Yeah, there was a lot more to it than that, and Derek. So I think that's very insightful on your part. Good job on that. Derek Ridgway was caught in 2003. Okay, so same year. That would be something. Gary Ridgway wasn't in construction though, right? He was he worked on big rigs or painted them or something, right? So this is Austin Renshaw. I've made no attempts to try to reach his family. There is no Facebook page for his disappearance. As I stated, this got posted on just one of these regular missing persons pages that somebody has, and they just randomly post disappearances on there. This one caught my eye, and I decided to give it a go, read about it, see what I could, any other things. Not a lot out there. In fact, for a 22-year-old, and, his father at least is mentioned in this write-up on the Charlie Project, really not many articles written about his disappearance. Why? I don't know. Even at the time, not many written and hardly anything since it actually happened. So it's, you don't keep these things in the public eye. You kind of go lax for whatever reason. It kind of gets out of the public mind. And I think that's just going to make a disappearance harder to solve. Derek says, Maureen Kenworth, truck painter. All right. Derek, he worked for a paint company, if I remember correctly. That company's paint ended up on one of his victims, and investigators were able to use the paint brand to get to Ridgway. Well, that's fantastic police work on their part. I was sent something for you to look at, by the way. Oh, me, D. All right, D. Send it to me, D. I'll look at it, whatever it may be. So that is Austin Renshaw. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of his disappearance before, but now you have. Maybe it will eventually end up being an Unfound episode. Maybe not. Just hard to say. It's kind of hard to find people if they don't have a Facebook page or a website. They haven't done a lot of interviews. They haven't done a lot of media, and then it's a little difficult to try to track people down. Not impossible, and in fact, just randomly today, I tracked down the sister of a woman who went missing in 1981. Even though there's no Facebook page and there's no website or anything, I was able to track her down, and we're going to be talking tomorrow. So I'm very excited about that. Can't tell you who it is right now, though. Anything else? Of course, the part 2 of my interview with Jason Blair came out on Saturday. I hope that was a little surprise for all of you. And I don't know if you ever knew, you found out in part 2 that, yes, he was that guy at the New York Times, this story that blew up over 20 years ago. If you remember a general story about a writer at the New York Times getting caught faking news stories and plagiarizing and everything, that was Jason. And I'm so happy that he has been able to recover from that. Of course, in the episode, he owned up to it. He has owned up to it since it happened. He wrote a book about it, owning up to what he did. And, it's disgusting how so many people all over the map used that, for their own devices about attacking the media, attacking the New York Times, attacking, saying that Jason, the only reason he worked there was because, it was a minority hire and everything. Of course, anybody who has listened to Jason knows that he can handle himself just fine. What you learn, though, as I have suspected for a long time, is that Jason had some problems, once again, that he's owned up to for the last 20 years. He had a drinking problem. He had a drug problem. He had mental health issues. That is eventually what caused him to do what he did, not because he's underhanded or lazy or unqualified or anything else. And I think that we can learn so much from that. We always, and we're always so quick. We're not supposed to like this group, and we're not supposed to like these businesses, and we're not supposed to like these people. And so when something bad happens in their group, we automatically assign it to, we were right. When really, we probably aren't right. There's probably all sorts of other reasons that happened, not the reasons we want it to have happened. So many people not liking the New York Times, so one of the reporters gets caught doing what Jason was doing. We knew we knew the New York Times was a rag. We knew that they were cutting corners. We knew. That wasn't what was going on at all. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And this is, what was it, last week or the week before I went on that rant? We are so quick to hate people. We are so quick to do that for our own devices because we think we know everything. It's disgusting. Whereas we now know that for Jason, he needed help. He needed help. I'm happy that he got it. And we're all much better off for that. But the problem is all those people who pointed the fingers at him in the New York Times and, the mainstream media, and look at them. None of them have ever admitted they were wrong. None of them, you know what? We got it wrong. It turns out, Jason Blair, he's having some issues. We shouldn't have been so quick to judge. They will never apologize. And it is disgusting. And it's, once again, one of the reasons the media sucks in this country. It just sucks. Let's go to this Friday's disappearance. This is one I've been working on. Now, the interview hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen Thursday, so it's going to be a quick turnaround from Thursday to Friday. But I did speak with the guest today, and we're going to make it happen on Thursday. We are going to be covering the disappearance of a woman with a very unique first name. We've had a few over Unfound's existence, but this woman's name is Tanova, Tanova, Tanova Ross. And she went missing on Groundhog Day of 2020. A lot of twos in that date. February 2nd of 2020. She went missing from Blackman Township, Michigan. She's 33 years old. Very sadly, as you know, like Tanya Sadecki and so many others that have been featured on this podcast, Tanova had her issues. Drugs, problems with the law, prostitution. But like every one of these, there are just those little things that pop up that just make each one of these kinds of disappearances unique, even though in general, Tanya's kind of like Tanova, is like this, or like her, like so many we've covered. But within Tanova's, you're going to hear about how some of her clothes were found thrown over a fence. And we will be getting into some other things. I don't want to, at this point, name who the guest is because she hasn't been interviewed yet. But it's going to happen. And you will hear it on Friday. So Tanova Ross, Tanova Ross, if you want to look it up. She is on the Charlie Project. But as Dee is saying, I couldn't find a lot on her and making it hard for trivia. Well, sorry about that. Dee, and yes, everybody should be tuning in on Thursday evenings when Dee and I do trivia along with Arctic Fox and so many others who take part on Thursday evenings. I hope you can at least tune in and see me miss a lot of questions. What's everybody saying, Dee? Dee Dee says, enjoying the Jason Blair interview. We still have part 3 to go where we just do some general discussion about media, true crime, and mental health. And I found nothing. Yeah, okay. Anybody else saying anything? Okay, so there we go. It's 11 o'clock. Man, the 2 hours flew by. That's all I have for you tonight, thankfully. Did not get, maybe next week I'll talk about Crime Con. I guess it's going on right now or just finished up. I'll leave that soapbox maybe for next week. Of course, we never know what's going to happen over the next week, what I'll get, who knows what I'll be on the agenda for next Monday. And of course, we're coming up on my birthday. Do not forget my birthday, August 1st. Don't forget. That's all I got for you tonight. Please give this video a thumbs up, the show a thumbs up, subscribe to YouTube. See if you'd like to contribute to Patreon, PayPal right here on YouTube. Hit the join button. Keep your heads on swivels. Do not end up on my podcast. Charlie, say hi to the kids for me. I guess Bration, has he already left to go see Diane or not? Anyway, say hi to the kids for me. Good night.